Only Lost Girl on DVD and Blu-ray.
You've chosen a side. What side? You are done.
Hold on to your knickers. Tonight's gonna be a wild ride.
Featuring extras and uncut footage not seen on TV.
Oh, and our very good sisters.
Yes.
That's true. You all know that.
It's time for me to introduce myself.
I really want to look inside.
Lobo returns.
Lost Girl. Only on DVD and Blu-ray today.
They were very generous. You can thank them for your posters, and we have a door prize that somebody will win tonight. So they are the ones who provided. Who here went to the fan gathering yesterday in the little room next door? They were the ones providing the gifts for that as well. So they, that's what they asked me to do, and I figured that was worth it to be able to give you guys all that stuff. So anyway. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves to you, tell you about their interest in the show, and we'll start right here on my left with the trivia expert.
Talks me up and I'm going to disappoint y'all.
No, maybe she really does.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Beaver. I am I'm one of the co-hosts for the Lost Girl podcast, Drinks of the Doll. And what else was I supposed to say?
Well, just, you don't have to say anything else if you don't want to, but did you start, I'm just curious if everybody can address this when it comes around. Did you start watching the show as soon as it started airing on Sci-Fi, or did you catch up to it after it was already on?
Neither. I watched it before it was on Sci-Fi. Because, and I did not do this illegally, but I read an article about it and I thought, this is the show for me. It sounds like Buffy, but for adults. And so I actually ordered the first season from Amazon Canada, which I didn't know you could do, but you can totally do. So my first season DVD looks different from like everybody else's, and I'm always surprised. I'm like, why does yours look that way? But mine's Canadian, therefore cooler.
It has no extras.
My name is Kevin Batchelder. I'm one of the hosts of a podcast called Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV. We cover lots of genre shows. I also do a Lost Girl specific podcast called The Fate Files, a watch-along podcast. I've been very blessed to be on the Lost Girl fan panels last year, and actually the first one that was done in 2012 over in American Sci-Fi and Fantasy Media. Was anybody at that one? Awesome. All right, very cool. So yeah, I've been a fan since when the first episode aired. I totally was hooked.
Well, hi, I'm Sally Heaven. I'm one of the authors of the blog that's called WeAreUnaligned.com. And so I started watching Lost Girl in 2013 after it was already on it was in the middle of season 3. And the way I started watching it is I thought I was very busy and I didn't have any time to get into a new TV show. But then there was another TV show where there was, some like implied subtext between two of the female characters. So I watched it and I was like holding out hope. Of course they're going to get together. This would be a great ending. So I said to my wife one day, are they ever going to get together? And she said, no, they're not. And I was like, okay. She said, but you should watch this show. There actually is a real relationship. And I was like, I do not have time to watch any more TV than I'm currently watching.
Let's speak to me of one more show.
I know. Can't you see how busy I am? But then I took some maternity leave because we had our third child. So I was at home. Thank you. I was at home with our youngest child, and I had a lot of time on hands. I started watching Lost Girl on Netflix, and I was like, "Whoa, this show is awesome!" And it's not just awesome because of all the relationships, but I love the whole show, the characters, and the people. And then it took over my life, so I had no time to watch any TV shows, just kind of jumped into the fandom, and so I stopped watching all other TV except for shows that are made here in Canada.
Hello, my name is Jean Marie Ward. I write fiction, nonfiction, and everything in between. And I'm going to give a brief plug here for the one book I've got at the convention. It's called Athena's Daughters, and the only reason I'm plugging it, it's an anthology, is because it is by strong women, about strong women, and you can find it in the Artist Alley, that's where the comics are, at the Mark Dos Santos and Autumn Fredrickson booth. And this ties in actually with why I watch Lost Girl and why I love it. I'm always trolling for new TV shows because basically I write about 6 hours a day, or I edit, and my brain is mush. And then I want to watch something that's sort of kind of in my genre, but you know, something that's pleasant, something that if it jumps the shark, it jumps it in a cool way. And I was really interested when I first heard about Lost Girl because the promos implied there was going to be a lot of folklore and mythology taken into a twist, which I thought was pretty cool. They've actually put this on a TV show, and it's not stupid like The Amazing Johnsons. And so, oh, do not get me started on that.
We won't get on that.
No, you don't want to get me started on that. But basically, I knew I was going to like Lost Girl in the first episode when I realized it's about female friendship. How many times do you see that on TV? Because the first core relationship in this is between Bo and Kenzie. And then from there, you get a heroine who is strong, who is not always right, who is not mommy, and yet she is not slut-shamed, and oh, she's bi. It's cool. Everybody's cool with that. And it was like, what a good model for the universe. You know, you've got this diverse universe with this cast of characters that cover every spectrum, and they are all cool within the show. And how many TV shows do you have that have that kind of casting, that kind of diversity, and that kind of positive image for everyone?
And I have to follow that. My name is Erica Annabelle Pratt. I do a few things, and one of the things I do, or am, is an actor. As an urban fantasy lover and an actor, that's sort of, I want to combine those, and I often come from that aspect as far as production and acting and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, I want wine, and you have it.
That was it, yeah.
You know, we're all casting cover the size of that glass of wine right about now. Now, I actually wouldn't do that because then y'all would just kick me out. It'd be, she's saying nonsense or somebody wake that woman up. In any case, one of the things that struck me about season 4 was that you're seeing all these new alliances and new allegiances being built between the characters. Some relationships we find out about the first time. Everybody like Emmanuel's outfit today, wasn't she?
That was awesome.
Well, when she walked in backstage, and it was like, oh yeah, that's who that is. But yeah, you could tell it was her face. But I'm just saying, pink hair was it. But you know, we find out a little more about her. But we find out that you know what I'm saying. We're finding out so many different things about the characters. We're seeing an actual real friendship develop between Dyson and Lauren, actually, which was kind of a surprise. And they're in one episode, which Stephanie can probably tell me which actual number it is, that he says he doesn't really hate her anymore. Or I haven't hated you for a while.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, okay.
Ding.
408.
And I actually have it in my notes, but I wouldn't be able to look it up fast as she can tell you. Anyway, so I would kind of like to get you guys' take on that idea of all these new alliances and allegiances being built, and how did you interpret that in terms of what it means for the show?
You better pick somebody to start.
Kevin, why don't you start?
Anybody can start. You know, it's 8:30 outside.
Okay, all right.
Let's get crazy.
Well, I saw some season 4 storylines aside for the moment. The character relationships, yes, it was nice to see some things that we've been waiting to see. Certainly that is something that I've been waiting several seasons to see. It was nice to see some more of that start to develop, although it was, season 4 was herky-jerky in the way things kind of worked, I thought. But that is a perfect example of something that I enjoyed in season 4. It was disappointing, obviously, no disrespect to Anna, but the fact our lead was missing kind of threw things off early in the season, I thought. It was nice to see Kenzie and Dyson and Hale, certainly very early in that season too, on a lot more screen time together. I thought that was nice. I missed some of the Kenzie boat time. You know, as crazy a Kenzie fan as I am, so it was nice to see some of that. And the show, once it gets into its 4th season, you either fall into that trap of same old, or at least they were trying. So I had to give a lot of credit to that.
One of the things that kind of surprised me, and I don't know if it qualifies as under the sense of new relationships, but was how Vex in the early days was so evil, okay? And suddenly, he's the cuddly comic sidekick. And that one just sort of went, whoa. I mean, I knew Trick was hiding. He had to, from a plot mechanics standpoint, he had to be hiding more than he was telling about. I've known a lot of guys who have come to terms with the new lover of their exes, whether or not the gender dynamics play into it. So that wasn't as surprising to me. Or, Hale Kenzie, or, Lauren suddenly turning out to be the Unabomber's sister. But, well, she had to have some deep, dark secret to send her to Africa, for crying out loud. You don't do that for fun and games. Even if you do have a lover you're following. Africa's a bit extreme. But it was just like, whoa, comic sidekick, okay.
Well, I was struck by what Ksenia said at the CATS panel today. So most of you guys were at the CATS panel, but I'll briefly repeat. Somebody had asked her a question about what was it like for Kenzie's character to go to some really dark places during season 4, and so she talked about how, that was hard, and also, but she said that, if Kenzie had just stayed the same as she was in season 1, that would have been, not been, exciting television to watch, but it also wouldn't have been reflective of how a character grows as the result of the experiences they have. So I think that is true for season 4, both of how what the characters have all gone through on Lost Girl to this point, because they've been through a lot, but also a lot of the relationship dynamics between the characters. I don't know if anybody else was getting a little tired of, the triangle dynamics and, the animosity between some of the characters.
You can only play that so long before it gets just like that.
I know, and I mean, I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it a lot, but I also really loved seeing all of those relationships kind of shaken up and, people kind of developing new friendships and forging new ground, because I think we learned a lot about all of the characters as, they got to know each other in different ways. They revealed different parts of themselves to each other and then by extension to us, the audience. So, I like that about season 4. It was kind of like when you take the boggle box and you shake it up and then you can see some new words.
Along the same lines, I think, I think it's just very true to being a human that we always, it's super, dramatized, of course, on TV because we're not in an urban fantasy, so we don't really form alliances, but, the relationship dynamics and stuff and forming those alliances and new ones and having those change and everything, I think that's very human because that's what we do. We often, situations make us change our alliances and emotions and things that happen. We're always changing our opinions and feelings about people, even without knowing it. And we just see that, dramatized and hypersensitive on Lost Girl.
Well, I really enjoyed the dynamic you mentioned between Lauren and Dyson evolving. I really loved the storyline that the two of them plus Kenzie got in Waves with the mermaids. That was some of my favorite TV all season. I just thought that was fantastic and wonderful. It really highlighted their unique personalities and their unique approaches to the situation. But as you were asking the question, I was actually thinking of all of these little moments where we see relationships turn kind of in a sour way, a little bit like between I feel like Kenzie and Trick, their there's not the same kind of like grandfatherly
Right.
love there was anymore. And then also at the end when Kenzie evokes, asks Vex to be his true self and to be evil and to help her kill Massimo after she's sort of been his like moral anchor, trying to bring him back and be the cuddly, funny buddy sidekick.
Mascara.
Yeah, and they're mascara buddies. So I think we got both this season in some interesting ways.
Well, and there was something that Kevin said about the fact that that there was something off, and I think when I watched the season the first time while it was airing, I kind of felt at the time that this really does feel off kilter. Something is not quite right. I don't mean the first episode. I thought they actually handled that pretty well in terms of when you first start watching, you're like, okay, what's going on? But then to realize as it progressed, about 2/3 of the way through, they discover, well, we've actually had our minds wiped. Maybe we've seen it that. But in any case, their memories wiped out. But I think that there were a lot of things about the season that were kind of disjointed, and I don't think it was just because Bo wasn't there in the very beginning, but I do think that it was because some of these shifting and changing alliances and allegiances had an impact on how people interacted with each other and how they, who do you call upon to do something? There was one scene in the bar, and of course Stephanie wasn't going to tell me which episode this was, when Bo and Dyson, Lauren, and Kenzie and Hale are all sitting in a bar at the Doll. Trick is not in there, but they were upset because Trick had not been helping them. And it was they were like, well, we're the team, we can do anything, we're back together, And I really thought that was a good moment for them to realize that if they all worked together, things would be better. But then they proceeded to, not. And some of that was outside forces and some of that was them. But I really think that that's why it kind of felt off kilter to me when I watched it again before Dragon Con. I was watching, one a day for a couple of weeks, something like that. So I was seeing them more, not having to wait in between, and it made a little more sense how it all fit together. But I really think it was supposed to. I think they were trying to take things and kind of mix it up and then say, okay, it's like taking a puzzle, taking it apart, shaking the pieces up, and then kind of throwing them on the ground and say, hey, go ahead and put it back together in 10 seconds.
But I think the thing that kind of threw me off, though, and I'd be very curious to get other people's opinions, is any show that's good, as time develops, the relationships change if it's a good show. And we all, let's face it, we all fell in love with the show with a certain vibe early in the first or second seasons. And it's okay if it starts to change. The thing that kind of threw me off this season was the fact that while those relationships were happening, and maybe they weren't always good, I didn't have the typical gang aspect going on in the background.
Right,
Bo
well,
and Raina were out here, and Bo wasn't around, so I didn't have that center to at least lean back on and see them hanging at the Doll or some of that good stuff. It was a little in those other directions without that core there. And for me, that's what really kind of took some of that enjoyment.
What to me was the most, it was a weird season in that it was so focused on the interpersonal relationships. We had this series that was sort of kind of supernatural investigation, and they go out and try to help people and solve mysteries. But this time the mystery was all about themselves. And it wasn't about any external mystery that illuminated what was going on about themselves. And I think that, with the exception of the George Takei, I never get that right.
Takei is okay.
Takei is okay. That's a good way of remembering it. I know that Takei means expensive, and that's what he isn't. As Gene Roddenberry made the point. But the George Takei episode was the only one where you were dealing with an outside supernatural threat. You were always dealing with the relationship or the fact that oh, there's a mystery, Bo's not here, there's a mystery going on and something's wrong. And I do think that first episode where their minds were wiped set the tone for the season of the off-kilter. Because, you've got, the mystery is about them, it's not about somebody else. So, my 2 cents.
I kind of disagree though, because I think Reina was that sort of that took care of that aspect as far as being the predator or the person that you can't trust, and because Bo disappears and she comes back, she's like, oh, I'm totally in love with this guy, and you don't know him, and blah 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 blah. We're not really sure who he is, and so I think there is that.
Yeah, but then he disappears by the end of the season.
Yeah.
He's gone. Okay, he was there for the season. It's all about them.
Well, I think that's part of what a lot of the season 4 episodes were trying to show was about, Bo was abducted and, she was, who knows what happened on the train.
Yeah.
We have many versions to choose from. But, I think that...
She met Henry Fitzroy.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But then when she came back, she didn't have most of her memories, and she, learned quickly that she was dark, and so she had been traumatized, and she was mad. And she also sort of just kind of tried to fall back in with all of the gang, but they didn't talk about anything that had happened while she was gone, but they also didn't talk about anything that had happened before she was gone. So, you see that in, is it episode 405, Let the Dark Times Not Roll? Let the Dark Times Roll, when, she and Lauren, when she and Kenzie are in the bar, and they're, having separate conversations, they're not listening to each other. And then, yeah. And then, I don't know if it's the same episode, it's the one with Pietra, where, she and Lauren's like, are we going to talk about this now? You want to talk about this now? Karen Beatty, what? So I think that she tried to fall back into the gang dynamics and recapture what they had without actually addressing any of the problems that had come about, at the end of season 3 and, while she was gone. And so I think that was why, they tried, and it just didn't work for them to, be back in their friendship. And I think that was maybe one of the points that arc of episodes was trying to make, is that you can't just sweep, all of this trauma and drama under the rug. You have to talk it out.
But the problem with talking it out is it doesn't make good television. You need to kill a monster or something.
Yeah, and I wanted to get their, did you have anything you wanted to say, Stephanie? Then I want to get their reactions.
I'm good. Let's do questions.
Right here.
The last episode, I thought that when they put that last little bit of the prophecy or whatever up, how her heart would close the doorway. I was like, no, Kenzie, did you think that?
I know. Yeah.
Because that was predictable. Because I knew it. I knew it when she's like, don't tell them. I knew it. Did you guys think that was predictable?
Yeah, well, I thought it was foreshadowing. I thought it was good foreshadowing, but I didn't get that. That is exactly what I thought. Yeah. I don't know.
Kenzie wanted to die anyway, but because Hale, but no.
Well, it's funny, we've had some good conversations, I know, on the podcast. As you can tell, I'm a big Kenzie fan. Don't hide it. And I've watched a lot of genre TV in my life. And I probably should have seen that foreshadowing. And maybe subconsciously I did, but I did not want to mentally go there. I got to tell you, that was...
did not want her off the show.
No, I mean, so that's probably why I didn't see it myself. And it's I find it interesting because, as we talked about, some things don't make interesting TV, even though that's what you'd expect with people. And those of us who've seen a lot of that TV are like, oh, this, as you're saying, Carol, there's the foreshadowing, Kenzie and Hale first, and then now she needs to make a sacrifice. But I just, emotionally, I had the blinders on, like, no.
Yeah, because it's like you're getting to the end, it's like you can't think that anything bad's going to happen to that person. So for me, it was when it first was foreshadowing to me, it was watching it the first time and not actually knowing, was when she tore the page out of the book. kind of furtively and had that book, you know, so that no one else would find it. And she put it away. And at that point, I thought, uh-oh. But anyway, what did anybody else?
No, all I could think of was nothing good is going to come of this. I don't like this. That was my immediate thought. But you know, this is such a show about friendship. How are you going to hurt Bo? You're really not going to hurt Bo by taking her lover away. She's a succubus.
Right. You know, hurt by her friendship.
Her friendship,
Right,
yeah.
which is, you know, which is what Kenzie's trying to explain to Dyson in that scene. You know,
Yeah.
She loves you and she loves Warren, but I'm her heart. And-
She's what keeps Bo human. It's the friendship. The
What about the rest of
sisters
you?
of another mother. You know that whole.
Right. What about the rest of you? Did anybody else have? Did they raise your hand if you saw the foreshadowing of some sort in that episode? Okay.
So I was right along with Kevin.
Me too.
Yeah. Now that does not. By that I don't mean that we were okay with it, because I certainly wasn't either. And I got to tell you, I'm doing all these rewatches, you know, prior to DragonCon, and it didn't end up. I had a schedule. And it didn't end up that I was supposed to watch them both the same day, but I ended up rewatching the Lost Girls season 4 finale and the Being Human series finale on the same day. And I was like, yeah, that was stupid. But
Yeah.
I was like, throw me the tissue.
How many antidepressants did you take?
Well, see, I knew it was coming, but anyway. Okay, yes, right here.
I would say season 4 was my least favorite of Lost Girl, only because one of the things that I enjoy about Lost Girl until the season was it was just a fun show. For an hour, it was just really fun, and we had the intellectual part, the mythology of all these different fae, and bringing in all these different supernatural creatures from different cultures, and that was really interesting. With always the through story of the friendships and characters and their relationships, and of course Bo's alignment, unalignment. So there was always a through story connecting everything, but in the end it was a fun show. And this season was just a bunch of Sturm und Drang and darkness, and I thought it lost it. And so finding out that next season is going to be the last season, I'm curious as to whether they'll just do a one story for this season, or try and take a step back and recover some of the fun and go out on a fun note.
Yeah, I think.
What's that?
They're gonna go get kids.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I have a feeling it's been a fair amount of time doing, yes. But
But we are, for those who haven't seen the first, they're breaking into two 8-episode sets. The first of which will begin airing on December the 7th in Canada. No announcement from Sci-Fi, but they generally do January premieres. And then the other 8 aren't coming till next fall.
Well, speaking as a writer, in a weird sense, there's something that I pretty much know should happen in season 5. I don't know if it will, because I haven't, I'm not psychic. I haven't aligned with the producers. But from strictly plot mechanics, there have been little hints dropped from the first season that the person Bo is going to have to confront is Lucifer or Satan or whatever you want to call the devil in this series. And the only way she can really confront him is if she has to bring someone back from him. Now, theoretically, Kenzie should go to heaven because she dies sacrificing herself for the greater good. But, this is Lost Girl. It's not going to work that way. So how are you going to create a confrontation with the ultimate evil? Well, you have to put someone you love in their thrall. And so that's my thought, is why they set this up the way they did.
Well, one thing we needed to take a look at was at the very end, the Valkyrie, I can't remember her name. Tamsin. She goes, I lost her. Like, she somehow, something took it from her before she could get her to Valhalla.
And she should
She
have
got
gone
mugged.
to Valhalla.
She got mugged.
Yeah.
She got mugged.
yeah,
So
she
she's
said
not-
she's gone.
She's gone. So it almost
That's
sounded
what she
like,
said.
yeah.
It's what she said. She didn't go where
Where
she
she was-
wanted. She went the other way.
But the big concern I have about that, which is a perfect story structure, and it's a selfish Kenzie fan approach, is that makes it sound as if we have to wait all season
I know.
to get Kenzie back.
I know, I don't want that either. I want her in the first episode.
Well, you know, I think I may have heard this on one of the Drinks at the Doll podcasts, so I don't think it's an original thought, but, well, we said, where's my docubus sex? Wait a minute, no, it was, you think that, so Kenzie, you know, is missing and Tamsin was maybe mugged or waylaid, and so where is Kenzie? Obviously she's not in Valhalla, and the gates are barred to Tamsin, and she's not allowed back in. So the Leviathan in Urkala had said to Bo, I will see you again, before she sent her back up to the,
Oh,
to the,
Somebody you love is going to die. I'll see you
Yep.
soon. Yeah.
yep, and so,
I'll see you again.
yep, and so somebody, one of you three Drinks at the Doll podcasters probably said that.
That's a good point, yeah.
Do you think Leviathan is just a stepping stone to Poe's father?
Well, definitely, because another thing I heard on this podcast, you guys know,
Let me tell you the good gossip.
the Leviathan, when she saw Bo with the mark on her chest, she was like, that was supposed to be my mark. She was like,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
take my
right.
mark.
Yeah, she was very upset.
Why was he?
I don't know.
I just hope he's sexy.
It depends when the Kentucky Derby is. He's got to compete in the Triple Crown first.
Better have good abs, what do you say?
Abs pecking, bud.
Well, one of
You realize,
Back on
Carol,
track,
that
so we're
I
not talking
spend
about
Dragon
much.
Con making people blush.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just came from the Being Human panel. Okay, I don't know why I keep thinking this is on, but I think they've turned it down.
One of those
which is
things
okay.
you have to eat, almost eat it to be able to get rid of it.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure the people back there can actually hear what we're saying up here. And if you have trouble hearing these folks, we can get them to speak in that direction as well. Now, one of the things that occurred to me while doing the rewatch was how much I really enjoyed the episode Groundhog Day. And I think because it had a little bit more of that humorous tone, and yet it did still take on, I mean, it covered a lot of things. You know, it was showing more of the relationship between Kenzie and Hale. It was showing the deepening friendship between Dyson and Lauren. And it was, you know, it was still furthering a little bit what they were trying to do in the first place. But I think for me, that was probably the one that, from an enjoyment perspective, I said, oh yeah, that was fun, and yet, as I said, had more serious elements. It was definitely part of the series, and you actually need those kinds of episodes, I think, so that you can, like we were talking about the other night in the Supernatural porn last night. You know, that show can go down a very dark path. Every several episodes, you got to have one that's a little bit lighter, so that you can kind of alleviate some of that. But I was curious. I'd like to hear from our panelists what some of their favorite season 4 episodes were, and then you guys as well.
Why don't you start this one, Erica?
I was hoping I wouldn't have to. I really enjoyed Groundhog Day as well. That's probably my favorite episode. So a couple others that I really liked. I really liked Lafayette Pope.
Oh, yeah.
407, where you know Bo goes into Dyson's memories. I thought that was a really neat writing structure, and I liked getting to know more about Dyson, but at the same time they were also exploring Bo and Lauren's relationship. So there was all these layers to the story, and I thought it was really well done. Turn to Stone was another one I really enjoyed. For a lot of reasons, I really love that confrontation we got between Bo and Kenzie, where Kenzie's just like, you know, I belong nowhere. I don't really belong with you. I thought that was a great scene between the two of them, and kind of a long time coming, I think. So those were some of my favorites.
Yeah, the Lafayette Puck for me was just fun, story-wise, visuals. as well, you know, all the costume stuff for Kenzie and for Lauren. It was kind of fun to see that. And it was fun. I got a chance on a sci-fi media call to ask Ksenia and Zoe about that, and they said they had, you know, it was a kind of challenge you enjoy for different reasons. So that, you know, again, one of the ones that takes you out of the routine.
Well, I might repeat myself, but I love Groundhog Day. So I love Groundhog Day. That's a joke. And I love that movie too. You know, the Bill Murray one. So then when I saw the name of the episode, I thought this is going to be good. And you know, so there, you know, there was a lot of comedy, but also, you know, continuing, like, furthering the story and let the characters work out some of their issues. You know, and it also, you know, it was just fun. Like, there was a lot to laugh about. I think my second favorite of the season was probably Let the Dark Times Roll, because that seemed like when we got, you know, like, Bo was back, Lauren was back, they were back together. That's the one with the quiche, right?
That's the quiche.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. Yes, the quickish is that. Yeah, and you know, and I just I also liked no, that was it. So those are my two. 85.
I gotta say, I am stunned that people can remember episode names.
Meet Stephanie.
Some of them do podcasts and somebody else who runs the Urban Fantasy Track has a notebook.
Yeah, well, I don't do that. I'm sorry. I look at story arcs.
Do you remember, can you tell, yeah.
But I look at moments, all right? And yes, now that you mentioned Groundhog Day, from the story, I remember immediately which the episode that was, and it was a wonderful episode, I will agree. And I love Hale being the one who is sort of outside of it and going, well, maybe this time I'll do it differently.
Right,
maybe
right,
this
maybe
time
I'll
I'll do it differently. And I really liked that. And I liked it was Hale that did that. I thought that was good. But I remember moments. And I go back to the George Takei episode because I loved Kenzie as a ballroom dancer. With that 40s hairdo and the makeup, and it's like, whoa.
She actually is a dancer.
Yeah. I mean, I just went, whoa. And that was one of my favorite moments. The other favorite moment was, you know, I hate to say it, but Tamsin was always annoying to me in seasons, you know, 2 and 3. And to have her have to grow up, and Kenzie, the ostensible juvenile in the cast, having to be the one that raises Tamsin was just too precious for words.
Yeah, calling her Tam Tam.
Yeah, you don't get out of this one.
I too don't know episode names, so that's why I actually didn't want to go first. Secrets out. I really liked when the Morgan lost all of her powers.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Morgan, and especially loved all of the scissoring references that the Lost Girl panel made today.
There's something crawling on my nose. What is that?
Yes. So, yep, there's that.
What about you guys? Anybody have anything that hasn't already been mentioned? Was there a particular scene or episode? If you don't know the name, if you just remember what happened.
The
Yes.
dance off. The part we find out that Massimo is the Morrigan's son.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
That was like, oh my gosh.
Well, and it was especially disturbing after we'd already seen earlier in the same episode or the episode before when she kissed him on the mouth for a significant period of time. So that was
Yeah,
a
that
lot.
got a little
Those
weird.
dark things.
He's a mama's boy, but she doesn't treat him right, and yet Vex treats him as his son. He loves him. He protects him, and yet Massimo still went to her. She wants her.
And it really highlighted Vex's dependency upon the Morrigan, you know? That she could tell him to do this thing that was so difficult for him and engaged his emotions. And Vex does not like his emotions engaged. I mean, being the mascara buddy is friendship. It doesn't entail responsibility in the same way that having to raise a sociopathic child entails responsibility. And yet, you know, basically everybody's discomfort level, and oh, yeah, that was just so sick. Oh. But that's good, that, you know, sick is good.
But yes.
I didn't have a favorite episode, but my favorite scene of the season was when Kenzie begged Bo to release her, because that was heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah. When Kenzie, what, I'm sorry?
When Kenzie begged Bo to release her.
That was, yeah. Well, you know, for those of you who were in the cast panel today, I made the comment that I thought when when Ksenia was talking about the scene where Hale died, and I made the comment that was actually the most shocking thing that I'd seen on television. I mean, that was the one scene that when I saw it, I was just like, it wasn't any more pleasant the second time in the rewatch. But when I saw that, I should have seen it coming. And that was one that I didn't pick up on because there were little seeds dropped along the way. We have all the time, you know. We have this time.
Treatment, a little twig of Zamora.
Right.
I mean, we saw her like in the previous season. Did you get that from Buffalo, or was it from the beginning of this season? I don't remember.
We don't actually see it,
Yeah,
but she mentions
she just says it.
in Turn to Stone that she gave it to him as payment for her power.
Right. So we should have known, but still, I mean, it was just I think partly, I think there were a couple of reasons for it, but I think it was such a visceral thing. I mean, there are not too many ways that much of anybody is going to survive a sword being jammed all the way through their body. You know, it's not like you just got you in the side, but I mean, it was right through the heart. You know, I mean, it was just, ugh. Anyway.
Well, I mean, part of why, for me, for the most part, in this conversation, and a lot of folks, you know, season 4, as you mentioned, wasn't your favorite. I think that's true for a lot of folks as a whole. And while none of us are comfortable losing characters that we love, it does make us appreciate just how good the show is by the impact it has on us. Which is, I love that season 1 fun and the fave of the week and stuff like that. To be able to watch as much TV, you know, as I have, and have a show impact that much. You know, probably not since Buffy as a character death on TV, you know, turned me into an effing mess like I was. So I got to give him a lot of credit. I hate him. I got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
You know, and appreciate what you got.
The funny thing is, some of the great scenes and some of the great, you know, TV moments or movie moments are the ones you don't want to watch again. The ones that you will run away rather than watching again. And a lot of the season had extreme discomfort. I think that if Vex and the Morgan weren't so inherently comic, the whole Massimo storyline would be impossible to watch. Because, yeah, it is really sick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, the thing about Massimo is that I think he was a villain who really kind of made me uncomfortable. And I'll like to watch the scenes, especially in the early part of the season when he comes over to Kenzie's apartment and, you know, she's behind on paying him for her pixie dust, testicular powder, or whatever it was. And, you know, like, he was getting very assaulty with her, and, you know, like, implying that she could sleep with him to pay off her debt. And then in the scene where he is just beating her up, you know, and then that was really, really hard for me to watch. It was hard for me to watch Hale get killed, but it was, like, difficult for me to watch Kenzie getting brutally beaten like that.
Well, I think the whole scene, I mean, I think that whole thing is what I'm referring to.
The entire sequence.
Just that whole, from the time that he surprised her when she went to the and then, you know, just, I mean, and again, I think it goes back to part of it being that whole visceral thing. It was just so in your face, and they didn't, you know, there were no punches being pulled in that, you know.
He was super creepy, though. Like, the acting was really good because of the creepiness factor, big time. I will say that kind of after he swallowed the Unamen seed and, you know, went a little crazy and started cackling a lot, he lost a lot of, like, the creepiness factor for me because he seemed just kind of a little insane. But, you know, it was great acting because, you know, it really, like, kind of pushed my buttons. I will say, speaking of buttons too, I don't know who else in the room loves his shirts as much as I do, but I love them. Does anybody else love his paisley shirts? Thank you, Cindy.
Oh, how fun.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't even
I was
think
gonna
about
call
it.
it cosplay, but I couldn't find the right one.
Aw.
Nobody else. It's just me and Cindy.
Sorry.
The thing that
All
I
right.
would like to get everybody's reaction to is that this is the one thing that, well, I mean, yeah, there were a number of things that maybe made it so this season wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I don't really look at it that way. But the one problem that I had with this season was that Lauren tells Bo at the end of whatever episode it was that, that we're not going to see each other. I mean, we can't see each other anymore, blah, blah, blah. She's doing all that, and, poor Bo's heartbroken. And then, all of a sudden, it seemed like all of a sudden, a few episodes later, there didn't seem to be any gradual progression back. And what she says in the finale is, well, I was doing this all for you. I had to say this to you and make you feel as though, you would believe it. But I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy that whole idea of, well, suddenly she's cutting her, completely off and saying, I'm doing this now and you're not part of it. Maybe I'll see you around or whatever she said. And then, a few episodes later, she and Dyson are discussing how it's people they both love, this kind of. So to me, that just didn't really ring true, and I'm just wondering how the rest of you feel.
I agree, and I've never. I miss her. She's wishy-washy. She's always doing things, and she's saying something and doing something different. And I just feel like she's always been that way, and that's perfectly exemplified by her. Just annoyed at her.
I can see everybody's point on that, but I got the feeling all this season, and this is one of the things that makes it so unsettling for me, that there's 5 minutes of film time that we are missing. And I know that's much more than the 90 seconds that's actually cut out. I feel like I'm missing 5 minutes of script time on almost every episode except the George Takei and the Groundhog Day.
Well, my rewatch was done on the DVD, and I still had the same reaction.
And I feel like I'm missing script. Like that one episode when Lauren was locked up. Well, where did that come from?
Right.
How did she get there? How did she get out? It was just like.
Well, we weren't supposed to know how she got out. That would have been kind of.
Yeah, but I always felt like I was missing something, and I would watch for the second time, and I wouldn't come any closer. I understood the mechanics better, but.
I always wonder what happened to
That's
Crystal.
going to come in season 5.
I mean, as far as Lauren's storyline in season 4 went, when I look at the season as a whole, I think she was under cover. She was under deep cover. And, I take her at her word, she was doing it all for Bo. She was also under the sheets for a period of time, too, wasn't she? But we don't like to talk about that.
Yeah, she got a lot more action this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I just kind of taking the season as a whole, I believe that, she had decided that the way that she could help Bo was to infiltrate the dark. It had to be believable to Bo, so Bo wouldn't blow her cover. So, she had to make Bo believe it, and, I think that when she was around Dyson, she could kind of let a little bit of her cover slip because he wasn't probably going to betray her to the Morrigan.
No.
And she needed to vent probably some stress, but, she needed access to the dark archives and, to figure out whatever, she needed to be able to eavesdrop on the Morrigan and, talk to the dark archivist who copy of.
Oh, that was weird.
Wasn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And he knew Bo's contact right off the top of his head.
Yeah, I heard it.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I saw that part with Lauren, I actually, much like you're saying as far as missing scenes, I kind of thought, that's a little off. Okay, I guess they're going to fill us in on that later.
Which part?
You mean when she said
she,
that?
yeah, like she wasn't, you know, she was,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, more or less when Lauren was like breaking up the bow and all that bit, I felt there was more coming.
Well, she didn't really break up with her because Bo is basically like, everything's gonna go back to normal now, right? And Lauren says, no, actually I'm not. I'm gonna stay with the dark. And it was really Bo who was kind of like, whoa, and then leaves the room. So I feel like she did try to purposely create some distance there, but it was also sort of, I think, Bo just gut reacting like, her life was just out of control in the first part of the season. She couldn't remember what happened to her. You know, she was dark and she didn't know why, and she was just grasping for normalcy, which is why, like somebody mentioned, they were trying to like slide back into the normal relationships without really talking about it. And so when Lauren wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trot back over to the light now, I think that really, threw Bo for a loop.
And also will set you clean.
But in the next episode, in all the gin joints, when Kinsey comes over, Lauren's all like, I don't know. I feel like, Lauren did try to definitely, and she says later, tries to create some distance there, but I didn't think it was this like harsh breakup the way that some other people kind of interpreted the scene. So I guess that's where
She made it sound that way to me.
It felt to me like Lauren was acting like she was being listened to. It was kind of like Taft, where she was putting on the face, where she had to get Bo to believe it. And that's what it felt like to me. And I didn't think that it was like she was breaking up with her. She was kind of, but there was some truth in what she said. I mean, you can't
Lauren's
argue
really good at that. She's good at
But
saying enough truth
when
things
she
to kind of
says,
hide that
I'll
she's
see you around.
Right.
That was not like her when she would normally communicate just in a way. It just felt to me like her whole speech, except for the fact that there was a lot of truth in what she said. It felt like she thought she was being overheard, and she still had this plan, and whoever might be listening, and she had to have Bo believe it, just like that. That's what it felt like to me.
Okay, well, I can understand that part of it. I guess my whole problem is I think the way that they handled it, not necessarily so much in that scene, whether it was a pretend breakup or a breakup at all, or whatever the case may be. I just didn't think that the follow-up to it, I think it should have been done more gradually. That she should have let on how she really felt rather than, all of a sudden she's talking,
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly kind of what I'm saying, is that perhaps they always need to talk. I mean, that's the bottom line. There's so much unspoken there. But why would she do that if she felt like she was trying to get this plan in the works and felt like someone who might know about this would be listening? Why would she go into a discussion about it? Just like with Taft, she couldn't. I think it was pretty clear, but maybe not, because I hear sometimes different people see different shows when I watch it. But it seemed clear that she was trying to protect Bo by pushing her away. And of course she's not going to go into a discussion until, if her intentions were good, she's not going to at that point go into a discussion of why she's doing what she's doing if she thinks someone is listening. That's my point.
And they also have that happened on like season 3 or off screen, a lot of stuff that should have been on screen discussed, because especially like the Norn episode just in.
It's like, so-and-so told me last week, but we were not necessarily privy to the conversation. For some reason, that particular part of it just bothered me. And it bothered me the second time I watched it too.
I think that throughout Lost Girl, you can pick out a bunch of examples of that. And I was telling Stephanie the other day, I would love to have a panel where we put Lost Girl writers up here. And we say, hey, what was
Maybe we can get them to come after the finale.
I mean, that would be great. Let's invite them to DragonCon next year.
I will say that in regards to Lauren's storyline, like, I don't personally, the relationship part of it I kind of get, but like Lauren's big plan in regards to the Morrigan, I feel like we don't really know what her end game was. That's the piece that I personally feel is missing.
That's that 5 minutes.
Because clearly, she started this plan in the 6th episode when she takes the saliva or whatever she got from the Morgan when she kissed her. She says it, to the beginning or whatever it is when she cheers.
Yeah, when we started
to the beginning. Thank you. I mixed up the one with the tricks. It's starting line. And so she started it really early. Doesn't actually, do anything about it until episode 12, and supposedly because the Morgan threatens Bo. But that, Morgan's always threatening Bo.
It's what
So,
she does.
I don't know, because
She's very good at it.
yeah, I kind of wonder if somehow she had some sort of plan to get Bo unaligned, to unalign her with the dark. If she had some sort of plan in that. So that's the piece that I think is really missing from the storyline. Is why she concocted this fairly elaborate plan and did what she did to the Morgan.
Well, don't you think that Lauren, in her own much more subdued way, is feeling the same way that Kenzie does? Because here are the two totally human characters, and they are always the victim. And could Lauren be, grabbing power so that she can be on equal footing with these people permanently?
Well, she can't protect herself.
Yeah.
Don't you have something against Ebony?
I think the first part where we saw her feel the is exactly what you're saying there. She wanted to level the playing field.
Right, it was like
some
a-
power and because she had some scary things coming up against her. I think what caused her to go into her plan with the Morgan was, while I agree with you, it's not entirely a logical step, but I believe it was prompted by overhearing the Morgan so clearly saying, we have to kill it.
Well, that's why she did what she did in Origin, but she'd been planning to do that well before that.
I know, but what I'm saying is the planning earlier on, when we saw the thing, she kissed the Morgan and she was doing the research, getting DNA, I think that was just a thing to protect herself. Like you were saying, the humans were really in danger, and she wanted to make sure that she perhaps had a playing card if something came into
The fallback plan.
Yeah,
That's
but what
Plan B.
rushed her into doing with the Morgan, I believe, was overhearing the conversation where the Morgan.
Well, yeah,
threatened Bo.
but not that beginning part.
And you're
Yeah,
right,
when we're
she's
saying-
always being threatened. Bo's always being threatened by the Morgan. So there's a little bit of a lead there, but a lot of what they said, they ended up with Lauren saying that everything she did was for Bo. I think that was part of that. I think there was a little
We have one more comment or question over
So
here.
I actually think that the way that they did Lauren was brilliant, because she's the exact opposite of Kenzie. Kenzie goes out of her way to try to get Fae powers, but Lauren's no, I'm bringing them to me. Because once the Morrigan was human, she conked her really good. There was no building up to that. She's just if they're here when they don't have all these other superpowers, I can take them. We can take them. Us humans, we can handle this. So I love Lauren, but she terrifies me. I think she with this whole making the Fae humans, I think she just became the next big bad.
Yeah, I don't like Lauren. I'm like the opposite of you. But she's not a regular human. She has no Fae powers, but she's got some mad superpowers for a human.
She has mad skills.
Yeah, mad skills.
Mad doctor skills.
Okay, we're going to do our door prize. And if you will, you see it's a blue bag.
Oh.
And if you will look down on the front of your chair, on the right hand side, on the top of the right hand leg of your chair, look and see if you see a blue round sticker. That's an orange one.
Now look around you too, not just yours.
Yeah.
Look
Check
at
your
yours
own.
around you.
Well, this one here has yellow.
I honestly didn't hear you.
So I win that one. This one here, behind
Found it?
me,
You found a blue
has
one?
a sticker.
You take it.
Yeah, let me see it.
Oh, I can. Hold on. I don't know. It's a little yellow sticker.
Okay, now I don't want the yellow one.
Put it back, put it back.
You gonna see a blue one?
A blue one?
A bright blue one.
for like
Turns into a scavenger.
I'm gonna come look, and if I find it, then I'm. Because if I can't find the sticker, we're gonna have to resolve it. If we don't find the sticker, we're gonna have to do a trivia question.
Well, technically, I found a sticker. I mean,
See, I put it down there this morning, but I don't remember where it Okay, Stephanie, it's a hard trivia question. It's a hard trivia question. First, let's thank our panelists for being here.
It's been a great audience.
Thank you. And, okay, Stephanie's going to give us a.
you found a what?
So, or else I will ask you either a trivia question or a quote. You have to tell me who said it. Which do you prefer?
Well, you better say if one will scream about it. Because you'll have a lot of trouble figuring it out.
No, not if I'm looking at it.
Or you can say pick a number between 1 and 100. So
Oh, don't do that. I did that at the last panel.
Okay,
An hour ago.
I want you to tell me who said
you
this.
can guess the number.
This is from season 4. Evil comes in many faces. Anybody remember?
I know, right?
Okay, how about this one? Tell me who said it. Well, no, that would be too long. We'll do trivia instead. I've got more quotes than.
We did a quote.
That other quote was Trick to Kenzie.
I said that.
Huh?
I said trick.
You did?
But I don't count on the panelist, right?
Oh.
Unless you want me to.
I don't know. What do y'all think? Should she get it? She's one of my volunteers, and she's been working her ass off. A season 4 DVD.
Oh, thank you.
And a Wanderer card. And a bracelet that says Lost Girl. She's impossible to resist. And a poster of the Light Face signed by the guys. Thank you again very much for coming. We appreciate it, and I hope you will enjoy the cast